How did you feel when you first found out you were pregnant? Did you always plan on having kids?
It's not going to be a beautiful story, but I actually cried a lot. I felt sick. And then my mother found out with me, so yeah, that wasn't a good thing. But once I started to, accept the fact and grow, I was actually looking forward to it and excited. I didn't want kids until 35.
Anybody else?
Well, I was in school when I found out with both of my kids, so with my first one, I cried, but I mean, my husband, he was my boyfriend at the time, but he helped me get through it because he was really supportive, and I had a good support system behind me, so I was excited once I got over, like, okay, I'm having a kid in college, what I'm gonna do, gotta finish, but it was fun.
Did you plan on having kids?
Yeah, I did plan on it, but obviously when I graduated and got married and, started my career, but things change, you adjust, so it was fine.
Yeah, definitely doesn't go as planned, especially when you're in school, because that was my case as well. But I had family as a support system, so it was great.
I'll also answer the question. When I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, who's almost 3, for one, I had a lady prophesy to me that I was going to actually have her when I wasn't even having sex with my husband at the time, so that was pretty intense. And then my whole family wanted me to get an abortion, so it was a lot. It was a lot of emotions going back and forth.
I can answer that question. For me, when I found out that I was pregnant, it was emotional. Here we go. I had 5 miscarriages before I had Kifa. So it was like, oh my goodness, I'm actually pregnant, and I was cautious about. I think I went to the hospital the most with Kifa about everything. I mean, if he kicked too hard, I was at the hospital. And yes, I was planning to have a baby. I really wanted this, so I was excited.
Question number 2: what's your favorite part about being a mom?
I mean, I need us to sound like we love it.
I guess that. Throughout the day, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so they drive me crazy literally all day, every day. But my favorite part is nighttime, because that's when you see the love, when they're tired and they're ready to go to bed, they really cling to me. It's a certain kind of feeling. All the frustration from the day or earlier in the day just kind of goes away when my daughter's like, "Mommy, I want you. Mommy, let's go say prayers before I go to sleep." That just lights me up. So that's my favorite part.
My favorite thing about being a mom? What was the question? Part about being a mom? Just seeing another human being on this earth that I created that will forever, as long as I'm alive, look to me for help, for support, love. It's kind of scary sometimes, but I just know that God gave me a responsibility, so I just try to do what I gotta do.
You like your next. My favorite part about being a mom is because with my son, he's so resilient. So it's I can discipline him, or if I yell at him or something like that, he always comes back, "Mommy, I love you." And his love language is touch. So, and that's out of my comfort zone, but I can receive it from him, I guess, because he is my baby. And then it's just that you could be having a rough day, going through something, and then you see your child and they just look at you and they're all smiles and all giddy. So that's exciting. That outweighs all of the frustration when he does something wrong. You know, I remember back even to when I had him. I honestly can say that was like the best day of my life, the best feeling. So, yeah.
Good. Favorite part of being a mom is just being a mom. I mean, truthfully speaking, I like how it's just anything goes. You know, it's not scripted. It's real. You know, you just don't know what's going to happen from day to day. So that's what I love about it.
So how do you all feel like you've grown since you become mothers?
I have grown tremendously. Oh my goodness. I remember when I didn't have any children. I won't go back too far. I remember when my husband and I was dating. And he'd be like, I'm going to bed. And I'm like, it's 9:30. You go to bed. I'm going to party. You know, like, I didn't have any children. You know, I was just like, I'm doing this. I have money. I have no responsibilities. I do whatever I want to do. The money is mine. I can do whatever I want. You know, and now it's like, you spent money on what? You couldn't have got 2 air fresheners for the price of one. You know, so it's like, now it's like I'm a lot more frugal with it. I am, you know, cautious about everything. So this is what we love.
Hi. So guys,
Go back in the playroom.
Tell her like, Bill, you gonna come grab her.
Go back in the playroom.
Bye, Leon. I love you.
love you.
Love you.
Go ahead, back in the playroom. You're okay. Go. Okay, you're not gonna go back in the playroom, right?
She said bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah.
See you later.
Oh, so we're going, okay.
Okay, we're getting the questions.
Yeah, so you said what changed us when we became, Okay, I would say with me, I used to be very, like, timid in a sense. I didn't really speak up for myself. I never wanted to cause conflict or anything like that. And I remember when I was pregnant with Kenyon and I was working at the bank, and this lady, all my doctor had to tell me is that when I am upset or I get stressed, it stresses my baby. So like that was where I drew the line. And I remember working at the bank and this lady like slammed her stuff down because she had been standing in the line so long, and she got upset, and like I went into automatic like protection mode, and I was just like, no, you will not talk to me in that manner. And so after like honestly becoming his mom definitely gave me a stronger backbone. I didn't put up with a lot of stuff, and I would just say it made me also more open to like touch, because like I said, his love language is touch, and I'm not a very touchy-feely person, and I'm not a very mushy person either. So and then with him, it's like you gotta celebrate like the small victories. I'm one of those people, you be like, girl, I just got a raise at work, and I'm like, that's what's up. Right. But now I'm at a point where, like, you know, with Kenyon, and he's like, Mommy, I had a green day. And I'm like, yeah. But really in the inside, I'm like, oh my God, this is a lack. You know, if somebody else was to do that. So yeah, I guess it just made me more of a, what do you call it, an excited person, a more outgoing, and also standing up for myself type person. Yeah.
All right, we'll pause.
Well, I've grown a lot. I agree with I agree with Chrissy, because with the backbone thing, because working in healthcare, women just be so catty and they just be so everything, you know. So I'm like, you know, I got kids at home. I'm not putting up with this. Like, so that's how I look at things now. Before, I would let people walk all over me, and then once it would get bad, I'd flip out and people would be like, you know, all surprised and stuff. But it's helped me be more selfless, because I used to be selfish. I still kind of am. That's one of my things that I know about myself. But having to, you know, having to give my all to somebody else all the time. Yeah, I don't do the things I used to do anymore. I can't party. I definitely don't smoke. So don't drink. I don't do nothing. So they help shape me up real fast.
What is the best piece of advice you could give to someone who is about to have their first child?
Come on, Shay.
I would say have patience. Having a kid, having children in general, at any stage of life. I haven't reached like past the toddler stage, but I know it's gonna get different. It takes a lot of patience. Like you have to be selfless, and it's human nature to think about yourself, but when you have a little human life who needs you, like you really have to like kind of give your all to them, and that takes patience. Like it just kind of goes hand in hand. So it's something to really keep in mind.
Chrissy, go ahead.
I would say don't expect everything to be perfect. And that's even, I have to remind myself, I have the oldest, kind of like the oldest kid here. And I notice that every time as he gets older, he starts to do stuff that I always said, my child will never do that. And he does it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish you came with a manual. And they don't, you know what I mean? It's just, your kid is not going to be the same as your cousin's kid or your sister's kid. It's always going to be different. And there's no manual on how to handle it. You just have to learn how to deal with it. I mean, as well as with other people, your child is another person. So don't expect it to be perfect. You're going to have them days where it's like everything is all over the place. You don't know what to do with yourself. You just want to go in a room and lock yourself in there and cry. But as a parent, you can't do that. But, just like God knows. So it's, God's our dad. He takes care of us and he makes sure we're good. We pretty much are walking in his image. So just don't expect it to be perfect. Expect them to do things that we don't expect them to do. And yeah.
That is very
Careful. I want to respond to that one too. One thing is, do not take any time with them for granted, because they grow up like that fast, and mine's still little, but I'm just seeing how quickly they grow up. And just know that even when it seems like things can get too hard, that God gave us strength to endure those things, so we can keep going and we can take care of our little children, and then they'll be grown up, going off to college. So
Not ready.
That is true.
he's going right now.
My best advice is if you have a prayer life, to pray. Truthfully speaking, I mean, we've gotten in the habit of just praying often. First thing in the morning, throughout the day, before you go to bed, just pray. Make it a habit. Prayer is like what keeps me sane, truthfully speaking. And I agree with pretty much what you all said, especially with the patience. If you don't have patience, you're going to lose your mind. You're going to pull your hair out. You really are. And they're not going to be perfect. We weren't perfect. Keep in mind that you were once a child. I tell a lot of my friends that, like, you were a child once, and I have to tell myself that. I was a child. I probably did worse than what you're doing, so let me not jack you up right now, so yeah.
So, a lot of first-time mothers have like a lot of anxiety, whether it's like health reasons or safety. Like, what is your advice on dealing with like having kids playing outside or on the floor or around things that can make them sick? Like, how do you deal with a really anxious new mother?
Well, I think people think I'm a bad mom at times. I think with Kifa, I was sort of protective. And it's just like after that, I was just like, forget it, whatever. Like even with Kifa, he dropped the pacifier outside on the ground, pick it up, popped it right back in his mouth. I mean, they're going to get dirty, they're going to fall down, they're going to hit their head, they're going to have scratches, you're going to have to take them to the emergency room. Things are going to happen. If you boggle your mind with, I don't want them to get hurt, I don't want everybody touching my baby, people are going to touch your baby. Don't think too hard, because then you're going to find yourself putting you in a bubble. And then you also know with children, I don't know if you've ever seen it, you have kids that, because they're not exposed, they're like this. And you don't want your child to be always just like, oh my gosh, where's my mommy? You want your child to be like, okay, not necessarily up to strangers, but if you introduce them, you want them to be, sort of kind of comfortable. Like, hey, that's auntie. I actually had a cousin who was so sheltered that he couldn't really stand being around family. and like you'll hold him and he's like, you know, so you don't want that. That's what I'd say. Did I cover too much?
What she said, like they're gonna fall down, they're gonna get hurt, you're gonna have to take them to the doctor at some point or to the emergency at some point. And like, have you guys ever seen that Pamper or Love's commercial where the mom, where they're like, the first child, you're like, no, and it's like every time I see it, I'm like, that was me. I was like, my daughter, she hit her head on the table. I think when she was like 8 months, I called my husband like, we gotta take her to the emergency. We took her, and they were like, oh, she's fine. My son, he didn't fall off the bed. he falls. He hits his head every 5 seconds. And now we're just like, well, we hope he just okay when he gets older. Like it's an experience thing. I mean, you're gonna have some anxiety and you're gonna like micro watch your kid, but it's a growing experience.
I think, you know, when I first became a mom, I was like that, but I listened to so much stuff. I looked at everything. So I remember when I had my first ultrasound, I was like, does he have a cleft lip? Is he going to be okay? Like, you know, that's just how it was. And then when he was born, I remember the first time he fell, like, off of the couch, and I was like, oh my God, I'm a horrible mom. You know, stuff like that. So it's going to be like that anyway. But as they grow older, you will start to, like, let go more and, like, oh, you fell, you good, and which I've become that way. But even with my child being 6 now, I still have a hard time letting him out of my sight. So like where we live, it's a apartment community, and then there's like a playground. He always wants to go out there, but I'm like, I can't see you, you can't go. But it's still like, it's just, it comes with the territory. You have to take those steps and just kind of like loosen up. But yeah.
I feel like it's okay to be protective of your child, but just don't, you know, bear hug them everywhere you go. Like, just let them know it's okay, or, you know, just make sure they're always in your sight and they know to stay in your sight. And like my kids, they're little, so they still have problems like running off. But you know, as long as they're in your radius, like
you gotta watch the surroundings.
Yeah.
Even with my 11-year-old, I'm like, okay, he's like, mommy, I'm gone, and sometimes he feels like I don't care. But there's like one rule, it's like, don't you go down that path. There's a little path that leads somewhere, and I'm like, I don't like it. I don't like who I see walking from back there. I don't want to see you go down there. You know, so just set your boundaries, yeah, but at the same time, you gotta let them go. Because one day they're not going to want to be around you at all. So.
Right? Who is the mom that you admire most?
The mom.
Like,
celebrity or like
anybody, yeah, anybody.
I would say my aunt. She was pretty much like my second mom. I was always with her. Like, I still want to follow her to this day. But she, to me, is like super mom. She has 4 kids. Her husband was in the military, so she pretty much was a single mom for like 11 to 15 years. I don't know. It was a long time. And I don't know. Her kids are super respectful, but they have freedom. Like, I just want to be a mom like her. I can't even explain it, how she does it, though.
I admire my mom. She played mom and dad, even though my dad was there. You know how that is. Just, she was strong. I said, if my mom could do it, I know I could do it. Even though I'm married, I don't want to make that sound jacked up. But moms really do take on that role, regardless of what the situation is. So I definitely admire my mom for that.
I admire my mom. I love my mommy. I've grown to love my mom, and so I've grown to admire her. She is a woman of strength like no other. I watch her even now with possibly needing a knee replacement, just still working and pushing hard, and that's how it's been. I remember when she stayed at home with us. She was a stay-at-home mom for a while. And then after my younger sister got old enough, she went back to work, and she's just been pushing forth, you know, and I just really admire her. And I have another person, but I don't want to make her cry. But I admire my sister, too. I really do. She's a strong woman. Like, I've watched her go through a lot, and just to see her take on the role as a mom and dad, you know, a mom and dad, and push past raising a son at that. It is not easy being a mom raising a boy, because if I didn't have my husband, we wouldn't have kids. Yeah, let's leave it at that. because I mean, I'm just telling you, like, I was looking at her like, how do you do it? Like, really, how do you do it? So I admire her. She's my second person.
I have a list. A lot of my mom, for one, she raised 3 of us best way she could. She did everything. I remember just her not having like shoes. I remember like looking at my mom and she was never dressed up. She never had the nicest stuff, and I remember seeing other moms and they would always look nice, and I always wondered like, hey mom, like what's up? But we always had like name brand stuff, like not that that's what's important, but she always made sure we had, even when she went without. So with that, and I mean even now, like I'll send her text messages and stuff and just telling her how awesome she is, you know, how much I love her. She was like, well, I ain't all that, but like Mother's Day, I gave her a card of a Proverbs 31 woman, and even though in my eyes, I mean, when you look at it from a spiritual standpoint, she wasn't necessarily all of that, but she did the best that she could with what she had, and for that I'm still very grateful. But if she was here right now, she'd be like, girl, you need to stop lying, I ain't all that. But anyway, I admire my aunt. She passed away though, but I remember when I had Kenyon, she was there to help me. And a lot of times I didn't like a lot of stuff that she was telling me because I felt like she was telling me that I wasn't a good enough mom at the time, and I just took that to heart at that point in time. But I respect her for the woman that she was. She raised a lot of standards when it comes to like sanitary, like it's crazy stuff, like going in the kitchen in your night clothes and all of that. I admire my sister for having kid after kid. I couldn't do it. Like those stair-step babies, I'd be no more good. But I guess I just look at it from my standpoint because I am a single mom. But yeah, there's a lot. I'm not going to go down the list of all the mothers I admire, but there's a lot of mothers that have my respect. So,
what is the biggest surprise about motherhood?
It's a daily surprise.
You just don't know when. Can I speak for me? You just don't know when it's going to happen. Just kidding. The biggest surprise. My biggest surprise is people don't believe me. People actually think that I purposely had babies back to back, and I didn't. That was a big surprise. Just like she said, stair steps. For the last 3 years, I've been pregnant. So that right there is just like you don't know what's gonna happen, what's gonna take place. You know, it's a lot of surprises. But that was my biggest surprise. Getting pregnant over and over again. Hold on.
I believe the biggest surprise for me is when I tell my son something and I think that he has it because I'll like have him repeat it back to me, and then he'll turn around and just do the complete opposite of what we talked about. And like sometimes I'm like, Lord, like, why does he do this? But and so I guess it surprises me because I know that he knows what I'm telling him to do. But then sometimes I surprise myself because I'm like, Christina, he's still only 6, like, you know. So yeah, I would say I can't think of anything else right now. But yeah,
Well, for me, I have to agree with Saida. The biggest surprise for me was you just don't know when it'll happen. I was pregnant for 2 years in a row. Like, it was a surprise to me. Back to back, I never expected to have kids like that. But also a big surprise is when people are understanding about like your circumstances. Like, kids are so busy, and I'm just like, for some reason I'm always like embarrassed in public places when I'm like chasing my kids around or like, you know, grab them, like, no, and they're screaming and I'm like, I'm sorry, and people are like, no, it's okay. Like, to me that's just unreal. Like, no, it's not okay. Like, like my ears are ringing. How are you guys like not upset with me? Like, how are you not telling me to get out? Like, that's really surprising to me. And it's like, it's comforting to know that people are understanding and not like, get your child and go. Because I mean, I wasn't like that, but you would expect when it's your kid, you think other people are like, that's annoying because you're annoyed. But yeah,
I'll answer as well. The surprise for me was to realize how much of a responsibility I have as a parent, and dads do a lot. They do. What they do does not go unnoticed. But moms, I feel like, do a whole lot more. We're there at 2 o'clock in the morning when they're sick, when they're running a fever, when they got ear infections, when they're throwing up, when they don't want to sleep. Dads is knocked out, like unconscious, and we're up. We're always up. We're always like the first responder, you know? So that's the surprise. I just couldn't be like a mom of 6 kids. I wouldn't know what to do.
Well, that's all the questions I have for you all, so thank you so much.
Thank you.